Our life support system is failing, Captain Carter. We have perhaps 6 hours of breathable air remaining and our temperature controls have failed. The ship is becoming dangerously hot, Zara replied, trying to keep the desperation out of her voice. Understood. I will see what I can do, Lisa said simply. I am beginning my approach. Now please have someone meet me at your port. Airlock. Zara sent Kira to the airlock, despite Vera's protests that it should be a lower-ranking crew member who dealt with the human. But Zara wanted someone she trusted to assess whether this human could actually help them, or if this was just false hope. 20 minutes later, Kira reported that the human ship had successfully docked. It was even smaller than their sensors had, indicated basically a flying box with engines attached. Kira watched through the airlock window as a figure in a bulky spacesuit prepared to enter. When the inner airlock door opened, and Lisa Carter stepped through, every Altarian present stepped. Back in shock, the human woman was short by their standards, barely reaching the middle of their torsos. She had only 2 arms, and her spacesuit looked like something from a museum. Lisa removed her helmet, revealing a face with brown skin and dark hair tied back in a practical style. She had warm brown eyes that quickly scanned the corridor, taking in the situation she was carrying. 2 large bags that seemed too heavy for her small frame. But she showed no sign of struggle. The temperature in here is about 45 degrees Celsius. That is dangerous for your species, Lisa said matter-of-factly, looking at the Altarians who were all sweating heavily. We need to cool this place down. Fast. Kira found herself responding before she could stop herself. Our environmental systems are completely fused. The solar storm destroyed the control circuits. It would take weeks to rebuild them, even if we had the parts. Lisa smiled, and it was such a strange expression to see on an alien face in their dire situation. Okay. So we cannot fix the fancy system, but we can cool the ship another way. I need access to your water reserves and any spare piping. You have. Vera had arrived by this point, and she looked at the human with open disdain. You think you can fix advanced Altarian technology with water and pipes? This is absurd. We should not waste our remaining time on primitive solutions. Lisa looked up at the towering Altarian commander without any sign of intimidation. Listen, I understand. You do not trust me or my methods, but I have been keeping ships running in deep space for 15 years. Sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. Now, do you want my help, or do you want to keep arguing while your crew suffers? The blunt response shocked everyone. Humans were known to be rather direct, but to speak to an Altarian commander that way was unthinkable. Yet Zara found herself respecting the small human for her courage. Show her what she needs, Zara ordered. Kira over them. Next 2 hours, Lisa worked with an energy that amazed the weakening Altarian crew. She ran pipes from their water reserves through the corridors and created a basic cooling system using principles so simple that the Altarians had never considered them. She used the vacuum of space itself as a cooling agent, cycling water through pipes exposed to the void. As the temperature began to drop, Lisa turned her attention to the air problem. She examined their life support system and shook her head at the complexity. Then she pulled out what looked like a roll of silver tape from her bag. This is going to sound crazy, but I can buy you more time with duct tape and plastic sheeting, Lisa said as she began working. Your system is trying to maintain atmosphere throughout the entire ship. But half your ship is empty right now. We seal off the sections you do not need and concentrate your air where your crew is. Vera watched in disbelief as the human used primitive adhesive tape and plastic sheets to seal doorways and vents. The solution was so crude that it was almost insulting to their advanced technology. But the oxygen levels in the occupied sections began to stabilize. While Lisa worked, she talked to keep the crew calm and focused. She told them about Earth and how humans had learned to survive in harsh conditions. She spoke about places called submarines, where humans had learned to live underwater with limited air. She mentioned space stations held together with basic materials that had kept humans alive in orbit for years. Your species survived by being perfect, by having the best technology, Lisa said as she worked on another makeshift seal. But humans survived by being adaptable. We never had perfect solutions, so we learned to use whatever we could find. Young Lyra, who had been watching with fascination, asked, "How did you end up out here alone in such a dangerous region of space?" Lisa paused in her work and smiled. "I am a cargo hauler. I take supplies to the mining stations. On the frontier it is dangerous, but someone has to do it. Plus, the pay is good and I like the solitude gives me time to think and tinker with things. You came to help us even though it put you in danger, Lyra said softly. Why would you do that for strangers? Lisa looked genuinely puzzled by the question where I come from. We have a saying that today you tomorrow me. It means that we help others, because someday we might be the ones who need help. It is just what people do as. She continued working. Lisa asked Kira about their other systems. She listened carefully as the Altarian lieutenant explained the complex quantum processors and bio-neural circuits that controlled their ship. Then Lisa asked a question that surprised everyone. Do you have any backup systems? Something older maybe, from when your ships were less advanced. Kira exchanged glances with Vera before answering. We have emergency systems that are several generations old, but they are incompatible with our current technology. They use completely different protocols and connections. Perfect, Lisa said with a grin. Old tech is usually simpler and simpler is easier to fix. Show me where they are. The Altarians led her to a section of the ship that most of them had forgotten. It contained backup systems that were considered antiques by their standards technology from 500 years ago, that had been kept only because regulations required multiple redundancies. Lisa examined the old Altarian equipment with the excitement of someone who had found treasure. These older systems used principles that were similar to human technology. Basic electrical circuits, simple processors, and mechanical switches. It was still more advanced than anything humans had, but it was something she could work with. I can definitely do something with this, Lisa said, pulling tools from her bag. But I need to bridge your old systems with your new ones, and that is going to require some creative wiring. Vera scoffed at the idea. These systems are completely incompatible. They use different power requirements, different data protocols, even different physical connections. It is impossible to make them work together. Lisa looked up at the commander with a mischievous smile. You know what humans call impossible, a challenge. We love challenges. She pulled out a device from her bag that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts because it had been. Lisa explained that she had built it herself to help her interface with different alien technologies she encountered on the frontier. It was ugly, held together with tape and solder, but it worked. For the next several hours, Lisa performed what the Altarians could only describe as technological surgery. She spliced cables, cut circuits, and rerouted power in ways that violated every principle of proper engineering. She used copper wire from her own ship to create connections that should not exist. She even used a metal coat hanger at one point to bridge two systems. The Altarian engineers watched in horrified fascination as this human violated every rule they had been taught. Mira, the chief engineer who had recovered enough to observe weakly, protested that Lisa was going to cause an explosion with her reckless modifications. Lisa paused and looked at Mira with understanding. I know this looks insane to you, but sometimes you have to break the rules to make things work. Humans have a saying that it is not stupid if it works, as she worked. Lisa continued to share stories about human ingenuity. She told them about Apollo 13, a primitive human spacecraft that suffered a catastrophic failure, and the humans on Earth had to figure out how to save the crew using only what was on board. She spoke about humans who survived plane crashes in mountains by turning wreckage into shelters. These stories seemed impossible to the Altarians. Their species had always solved problems through advanced planning and superior technology. The idea of improvising solutions from random materials was foreign to them, but they could not argue with the results as one by one systems began to come back online. The breakthrough came when Lisa managed to connect the old navigation computer to the new sensor array, using a combination of Altarian fiber optics and human copper wiring, held together with what she called bubble gum. It should not have worked, but somehow it did. Suddenly they had partial sensors, and navigation. They could see where they were, and more importantly, they could send a stronger distress signal. Lisa boosted the signal using a technique she had learned from human ham radio operators, bouncing the signal off nearby stellar phenomena. While Lisa worked on the engines, Zara found herself drawn to the human woman. There was something fascinating about watching her work. She moved with confidence despite being surrounded by technology she did not fully understand. She hummed something. She called music while she worked, and she never seemed to lose hope. Captain Carter, Zara said during a break. May I ask you something personal? Sure, call me Lisa, though. The formal titles make me uncomfortable. Lisa replied while eating what looked like a sandwich from her supplies. Why did you really come to help us? You could have ignored our distress signal. No one would have known. Lisa stopped eating and looked thoughtful. You know, my grandmother used to tell me stories about Earth, about times when humans were cruel to each other because of differences in how they looked or where they came from. She said humans did terrible things to each other for stupid reasons. She paused, taking a drink of water from a metal bottle, but she also told me about the people who helped others despite the danger, people who hid refugees from wars, people who shared their food during famines, people who risked everything to save strangers. Lisa looked up at Zara with serious eyes. She said that was what made us human, not our intelligence or our technology, but our choice to help each other. And she made me promise that if I ever had the chance to help someone, I would take it no matter who they were or where they came from. Zara felt something she had never experienced before, a deep respect for this primitive species that valued compassion over capability. The conversation was interrupted by an explosion from the engine room. Everyone rushed to find Lisa had been thrown against a wall and was bleeding from a cut on her forehead. The engine she had been working on had overloaded. I am okay, Lisa said, struggling to stand, just miscalculated the power flow, but I think I know what went wrong. Now Kira moved to help her, appalled that the human was injured while trying to save them, but Lisa waved her off and went right back to work, blood dripping down her face as she readjusted connections. You are injured. Lyra said you should rest. Lisa laughed, wiping blood from her eyes with her sleeve. I have worked with worse injuries. Besides, we are running out of time. Your air is still dropping and we need engines to get you somewhere safe. She was right. Despite all her efforts, they had maybe 12 hours of air left and they were still drifting in empty space, but Lisa had given them something. They had lost hope. Over the next 4 hours, Lisa worked like someone possessed. She jerry-rigged connections that made the Altarian engineers cringe. She used parts from her own ships, emergency supplies. She even dismantled some of her own equipment to provide components. Finally, she managed to get one engine partially operational. It was running at 10% capacity and making sounds that suggested it could fail at any moment. But it was working. That should be enough to get you to the nearest space station, Lisa said, exhaustion clear in her voice. It is a human mining outpost about 8 hours from here. At this speed, they can help you with proper repairs. Vera, who had been silent for hours, finally spoke. You destroyed your own emergency equipment to fix our ship. You put yourself at risk. Why, Lisa shrugged, as if it was nothing. I can get new equipment. You cannot get new lives. Besides, the outpost is not that far. I will be fine. She began gathering her tools, preparing to leave, but Zara stopped her with a gentle touch of one of her 4 hands. Wait, you are exhausted and injured. Rest here for a moment. Lisa sat down heavily on an Altarian chair that was far too large for her. She looked small and fragile in that moment, covered in grease and blood, her hands shaking from exhaustion, but her eyes still held that determined spark that had kept her going for hours. The entire crew had gathered in the corridor to watch this small human who had saved them all. They whispered among themselves in their own language, expressing disbelief that such a primitive being had accomplished what their best engineers could not. Lyra approached with a medical kit and began cleaning the cut on Lisa's forehead. The human winced, but did not pull away. She seemed surprised by the gentle attention from the alien crew. You know, Lisa said, breaking the silence, I have to admit, when I first got your distress signal, I was terrified. I mean, you are the Altarians. You have technology that makes our best scientists look like children. I thought there was no way I could help. Then why did you come? Kira asked Lisa, smiled that tired but genuine smile again. Because my dad taught me that you do not have to be the smartest or the strongest to make a difference. You just have to show up and try. He was a mechanic back on Earth. Fixed old cars that nobody else wanted to touch. He used to say that every problem has a solution, even if you have to make it up as you go. She looked around at the assembled crew and continued. Besides, I figured even if I could not fix your ship, maybe I could at least bring you some supplies or comfort or something. I could not just leave you out here. Commander Vera stepped forward, and for the first time since Lisa had arrived, she spoke without disdain in her voice. You have saved our lives with technology that we considered Obsolete centuries ago, you have shown more courage than warriors twice your size. I was wrong about your species. Lisa laughed, a sound that echoed strangely in the corridor. Do not give us too much credit. We humans are still pretty new at this whole space thing. We make mistakes all the time. But I guess that is how we learn, by failing and trying again. Captain Zara had been silent, but now she spoke with formal authority. Lisa Carter of Earth, you have rendered aid to citizens of the Altarian Republic without thought of reward or recognition. This debt cannot be easily repaid. Lisa stood up quickly, almost falling from exhaustion. Whoa, hold on, there is no debt. You do not owe me anything, I told you. This is just what humans do. But we are not humans, Zara replied, and our culture demands that such actions be recognized. You have earned the gratitude of the Altarian people, and that is not something we give lightly. Before Lisa could protest further, an alarm began sounding. Kira rushed to the nearest console and her face went pale. The engine is failing faster than expected. We have maybe an hour before it completely dies. Lisa was on her feet, immediately swaying slightly but determined. Let me look at it. No, Vera said firmly. You have done enough. You can barely stand. Lisa met the commander's gaze with surprising fierceness. And if I do not fix it, you all die. That is not happening on my watch. She pushed past the much larger aliens and headed back to the engine room. The crew followed, watching as she examined the failing engine, muttering to herself in what they assumed were human curse words. The problem is heat dispersal. Lisa finally said, the engine is overheating because the cooling system is not working with my modifications. We need another way to cool it. She looked around the engine room, her eyes landing on the ship's water recycling system. Then she got that look that the crew had learned meant she had another crazy idea. This is going to sound insane, but we need to run water directly through the engine casing, Lisa said. Mira, despite her weakness, protested that will cause thermal shock. The engine will crack. Maybe Lisa agreed, but it might last long enough to get you to safety. We just need 1 hour. She began disconnecting pipes before anyone could stop her. The Altarians watched as she rerouted their entire water system to flow through improvised channels around the engine, using thermal paste from her supplies to create seals. As she worked, Lisa talked partly to herself and partly to the crew. Humans have this thing called percussive maintenance. Sometimes when something is broken, you hit it and it works. Not because hitting it is the right solution, but because sometimes you need to shock a system into functioning. She connected the last pipe and water began flowing around the engine. The temperature immediately began dropping, but ominous cracking sounds came from the engine casing. It is working. But not for long. Lisa said, we need to reduce weight. To decrease the strain on the engine, start jettisoning anything non-essential. Vera took command, ordering the crew to begin dumping cargo and non-critical supplies out the airlocks. It went against every Altarian instinct to discard valuable scientific equipment, but they trusted the human now. As they worked, Lisa pulled Zara aside. I need to tell you something. My ship is old and barely functional. I used most of my spare parts fixing your systems. If something goes wrong, I might not make it back. To the outpost, Zara felt a cold fear grip her. You will follow us to the station. We will ensure your safety. Lisa shook her head. Your engine will not last. If you slow down for me, you need to maintain maximum speed. Get your crew to safety. That is what matters. Before Zara could argue, the engine made a terrible grinding sound and began to fail. Lisa dove under the console and did something that made sparks fly. The engine roared back to life, but Lisa cried out in pain. She emerged with burns on her hands from grabbing hot components directly. 30 minutes, that is all you have got. Go now. The crew began moving toward the bridge, but Zara remained. You are coming with us. We have room. Lisa smiled through her obvious pain. Captain, you have 30 lives to protect. Do not waste time arguing with one stubborn human. Kira appeared at the doorway. Captain, the engine is holding, but we need to leave now. Zara made a decision that went against every protocol. She grabbed Lisa with 2 of her arms while using the other 2 to support the human's damaged equipment bag. You are coming with us, that is an order. Lisa was too exhausted to fight as Zara carried her to the bridge. The human passed out as soon as she was placed in a chair. Her, breathing shallow but steady. Navigate to the human outpost maximum speed, Zara commanded, as the ship lurched forward on its dying engine. The entire crew watched the small, unconscious human who had saved them all. They had witnessed something that would change their entire civilization's view of humanity. 20 minutes into the journey, the engine began to fail again, but they were close enough to the outpost to send a detailed distress signal. This time, help came immediately. 3 human ships converged on their position. The human rescue crews were efficient and professional. They transferred the Altarian crew to safety and immediately began treating Lisa, who had regained consciousness but was clearly in bad shape. As Lisa was being taken to the medical bay, she called out to Zara, "Hey, Captain, remember what I said about no debts between friends?" Zara moved closer and placed one of her hands on Lisa's shoulder. "We are friends." Then Lisa grinned, despite her pain. "The best of friends, I would say. After all, we survived impossible odds together. That makes us family in human terms." The human mining outpost was unlike anything the Altarians had expected. It was rough and industrial, with exposed pipes and basic metal construction, but it was alive with activity. Humans of all types rushed to help the alien crew, providing medical attention, food, and temporary quarters. Lisa was taken to the medical bay where human doctors treated her burns and exhaustion. Captain Zara refused to leave her side, despite the doctors' protests. She waited while they worked their primitive but effective medicine. When Lisa woke up 12 hours later, Zara was still there. The human looked surprised, then embarrassed. "You did not have to stay." "I am fine. Really, just a little crispy around the edges." "You saved my entire crew." Zara said simply, "The least can do is ensure your recovery." Lisa tried to sit up and winced. "The doctors say I will be good as new in a few days. Humans heal fast. We had to on Earth, too many things trying to kill us to stay injured for long." The door opened, and Kira entered, followed by Vera and Lyra. They had all insisted on checking on the human who had saved them. They brought gifts from their ship, small items that had survived the journey. Lyra stepped forward, first offering a crystalline device. "This is an Altarian memory crystal. It contains the complete history of our people. I want you to have it." Lisa took the crystal carefully, her bandaged hands clumsy. "That is too valuable. I cannot accept this." Vera spoke next, her voice firm. "You can and you will. You have earned the right to know our history. You are part of it now." She handed Lisa a small metallic insignia. "This is the mark of an honorary commander in the Altarian fleet. No human has ever received one. No non-Altarian has received one in 500 years. Lisa stared at the insignia, speechless for once. Then Kira presented her gift, a small device that looked like advanced technology. "This is a quantum communicator." Kira explained, "It will allow you to contact any Altarian ship or colony in the galaxy. If you ever need help, you call us." Lisa was overwhelmed, tears forming in her eyes. "Guys, this is too much. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Zara said firmly. "You did what only a human would do. You saw strangers in need and risked everything to help without thought of reward or glory that is not common in the galaxy." Over the next few days, as Lisa recovered, the Altarian crew refused to leave the outpost. They helped repair Lisa's ship using their advanced knowledge to upgrade her primitive systems. They insisted it was not payment but a gift between friends. During this time, Lisa and Zara spent hours talking. Lisa shared more stories about Earth and humanity, while Zara told her about the Altarian civilization and their place in the galaxy. "Your species is remarkable." Zara said one evening, "You have been in space for such a short time, yet you have spread further than species 10 times your age." Why, Lisa thought about it, then shrugged. "Humans are curious. We always want to know what is over the next hill or beyond the next star. Plus, we are stubborn when someone says we cannot do something. We do it anyway just to prove them wrong." She paused, then added, "But mostly I think we explore because we are looking for friends. We spent thousands of years alone on Earth thinking we were the only intelligent life. Now we know we are not, and we want to meet everyone." Zara found this philosophy fascinating. The Altarians explored to gain knowledge and expand their territory. Humans explored to make connections. When it came time for the Altarian crew to leave, they had a new ship sent from their homeworld, a sleek vessel that made the human outpost look even more primitive by comparison. But before they departed, Zara made an announcement. "I'm transmitting a full report to the Galactic Council." She told Lisa and the assembled humans, "I am recommending that humanity be given full membership status immediately, not the provisional status you currently have." The humans at the outpost gasped. Full membership usually took centuries to achieve. Humanity had only been provisional members for 50 years. "The Council will resist," Vera added. "But the word of 30 Altarian scientists carries weight, especially when we describe how human ingenuity and compassion succeeded where our technology failed." Lisa tried to protest that she did not want to cause political problems, but Zara cut her off with a gesture. "You showed us something important. Lisa Carter, you showed us that the measure of a species is not in their technology or their age, but in their spirit. Humans have something special, something the galaxy needs." The day of departure was emotional. The entire Altarian crew lined up to say goodbye to Lisa, each one touching her shoulder in their traditional gesture of respect. Even Vera, who had been so dismissive at first, spoke warmly. "You have changed my perspective on many things," she told Lisa. "I will not forget the lessons you taught us." Lyra was crying, which was disturbing to see. On an alien face, she hugged Lisa carefully with all 4 arms. "You're the bravest person I have ever met." Kira gave Lisa detailed technical specifications for improvements to her ship, insisting she memorize them for safety, and Captain Zara was, "Last you called us family," Zara said, "and you were right. We are bound now by something stronger than treaties or alliances. We are bound by the knowledge that in our darkest hour, a human came to save us." She placed a small device in Lisa's hand. "This is my personal communicator, not for emergencies but for friendship. I want to hear about your adventures." Lisa was crying openly now, not caring who saw. "Thank you, all of you, for trusting me, for letting me help, for becoming my friends." As the Altarian ship departed, Lisa stood in the observation deck of the outpost, watching it disappear into the stars around her. Other humans had gathered. Word of what had happened had spread quickly. A gruff miner named Frank stood beside her. "You realize what you have done, right? You have just changed how the entire galaxy sees us." Lisa shrugged, still watching the stars. "I just fixed a broken ship." "No," Frank said. "You proved that humans belong out here, not because we are advanced, but because we care. Because we help, because we do not leave anyone behind." 3 months later, the Galactic Council voted to grant humanity full membership status. The vote was unanimous, something that had never happened before. The Altarians had not just submitted a report. They had testified in person, all 30 crew members standing before the council. To tell their story, Captain Zara had concluded her testimony with words that would be remembered in galactic history. "Humans may be young. They may lack our advanced technology, but they possess something far more valuable. They possess the courage to act when others would hesitate, the creativity to find solutions where none exist, and the compassion to help strangers without thought of reward." She had paused, looking directly at the council members. "If we judge species by their technology, then we miss what truly matters. Humans have shown us that the greatest technology is not in our ships or our weapons, but in our ability to see past our differences and help each other." The council had no choice but to agree, and humanity took its place as a full member of the galactic community, not through force or technological achievement, but through the actions of a single cargo hauler who answered a distress call. Lisa never knew about the testimony. She was too busy running cargo to the frontier, fixing ships with duct tape and wire, and occasionally answering distress calls from aliens who had heard the story of the human who saved an Altarian crew years later. When historians wrote about the moment humanity truly joined the galactic community, they would not write about treaties or technology. They would write about Lisa Carter, her roll of duct tape, and her simple belief that helping others was just what people did. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from the youngest species. Sometimes the most advanced solution is not the best one. Sometimes all you need is determination, creativity, and the willingness to help. And sometimes duct tape really can fix everything. The distress signal had been broadcasting for 72 hours when Captain Zara finally accepted that no one was coming to save them. Her ship, the Stellar Dawn, was dying a slow death in the empty space between the Vega and Altair systems. She stood on the bridge watching her reflection in the dark view screen. Her purple skin had lost its usual shimmer and her 4 arms hung limply at her sides. The solar storm had hit them without warning 3 days ago. It was stronger than anything. Their scientists had predicted the electromagnetic pulse had fried most of their advanced systems, leaving them drifting helplessly in the void. Their engines were dead. Their faster-than-light drive was destroyed, and their life support was failing. Zara turned to face her bridge crew. All of them were Altarian women like herself. Their species had evolved on a planet with low gravity, which gave them their tall, slender bodies and multiple arms. They were one of the oldest spacefaring races in the galaxy, with technology that most other species could only dream of. But now all that advanced technology was useless. Lieutenant Kira sat at the navigation console trying to coax any response from the dead equipment. Her silver eyes had lost their usual brightness, and her breathing was labored in the thinning air. She had been working without rest since the storm hit. But nothing she tried could bring their systems back online. Commander Vera stood near the tactical station, her golden skin covered in a sheen of sweat from the rising temperature. Their environmental controls were failing, and the ship was slowly becoming an oven. She had already ordered all non-essential crew to their quarters to conserve oxygen, but even that was only buying them time. The ship carried 30 Altarian women, all scientists, explorers, and engineers on a mission to map uncharted systems at the edge of known space. They were the best and brightest of their species chosen for this important mission. But now they were all going to die in the darkness between stars. Zara walked to the communication station, where Officer Lyra was still trying to boost their distress signal. The young Altarian had modified their emergency beacon using parts from other systems, but their range was limited. Most ships avoided this region of space because it was considered too dangerous and empty. "We are detecting something," Captain Lyra suddenly said, her voice hoarse from dehydration. "There is a ship approaching, but the signature is strange. It is very small and the technology seems primitive." Zara moved quickly to look at the sensor reading that Lyra had managed to pull up on a barely functioning screen. The approaching vessel was indeed small, barely larger than one of their shuttles. Its energy signature was weak and its design was unfamiliar. Then the computer managed to identify it, and everyone on the bridge gasped. It was a human ship. Humans were the newest members of the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 decades ago. While the Altarians had been exploring space for over 3,000 years, most advanced species looked down on humans as primitive creatures who had somehow stumbled upon space travel through luck rather than intelligence. Their technology was considered laughably outdated by galactic standards. They still used chemical rockets for sublight travel. Their computers were basic, and their ships were held together with what other species considered to be primitive welding and bolts. The Altarians had evolved past such crude methods millennia ago, but this small human ship was the only vessel that had responded to their distress. "Call, Captain. We cannot accept help from humans," Commander Vera said with disgust in her voice. "They are children playing with tools they do not understand. Their primitive technology cannot possibly repair our advanced systems. It would be better to die with dignity than to beg for help from such a young species." Zara understood Vera's pride. The Altarians were one of the founding members of the Galactic Council. They had helped younger species develop and grow. They had never needed help from anyone, especially not from a species that had barely left their own solar system. But Zara looked around at her dying crew. She saw Officer Mira collapsed at her station, too weak to stand. She saw the fear in young Lyra's eyes. She saw how Kira's hands shook as she worked. These women trusted her to keep them safe, and she was failing them. "Open a channel to the human ship," Zara commanded. Vera started to protest, but Zara raised all 4 of her arms in a gesture of absolute authority. She was the captain, and her word was law. Vera stepped back, but her expression showed her disapproval. The communication system crackled to life, and a voice came through, speaking in accented galactic standard. "This is Captain Lisa Carter of the cargo hauler Lucky Strike. We received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" The voice was female, which surprised Zara. She had heard that humans were a male-dominated species, at least in their military and space operations. But here was a human woman alone in a tiny ship in one of the most dangerous regions of space. Captain Carter. This is Captain Zara of the Altarian science vessel. Stellar Dawn. Our ship has been damaged by a solar storm, and we have lost most of our systems. We have 30 crew members aboard, and our life support is failing. We require immediate assistance. There was a pause, and then Lisa responded, "Copy that, Captain Zara. I am approaching your position now. I should be able to dock with your ship in about 20 minutes. I have some supplies and tools that might help. What is your most critical problem right now?" Zara could not believe what she was hearing. This human was coming to help without asking for anything in return, without demanding payment or salvage rights. She was simply offering assistance to strangers in need.